In this video, I'm going to share 5 ways that you can stay positive even when things seem to be going wrong in your life, plus a bonus tip. And I promise there will not be a single live, laugh, love sign to be seen. So, here comes the intro, and then let's talk about mental health. Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Mental Health. I'm Jeremy Godwin. Thank you for joining me. You know, staying positive when everything seems to be going to crap can be really challenging. And then if you want to add to that the pressure that many of us feel from society and friends to be happy, positive, and successful all of the time, and to be honest, it's no wonder that sometimes we might just feel like curling up into a little ball and staying away from the world. The thing is that positive thinking can be difficult, especially in tough times. And I think, well, we might be going through one or two of those at the moment in this never-ending pandemic. And I think there's a lot of advice out there that's telling you that you should be positive, but not so much telling you how to actually do that. And also how to do that when you feel really terrible and you're coming from a challenging place to start with. So that's what I'm talking about today. And if you stick around till the end, I'll be sharing 5 simple ideas that will help you through even the toughest of times, plus a bonus tip that I think will completely change your world. So one of the things that I struggle with in the well-being space is I think that there's a lot of people that mean well, but there's such a big focus on this generic version of positive thinking, which is almost toxic in a lot of senses. And you've probably heard the term toxic positivity before, in terms of going so far as to say that we should always be positive and happy all of the time. Otherwise, if we don't, then there's something wrong with us. And today I want to call bullshit on that, because instead we should be focusing on realistic positivity instead. So what do I actually mean by that? Realistic positivity is about being cautiously hopeful that things will turn out for the best, and knowing that things do happen that are good, bad, and indifferent. And in any situation, there's what's going on externally, plus there's what's going on internally. And so all that you have control over is yourself, what you do, say, and feel. And more specifically, what you do with your feelings. Sometimes we wake up and we feel like shit. But if you choose to push through that and find ways to change your mood, that's an example of choosing what to do with your feelings in action. This is all something that I looked at quite closely in Optimism, which was episode 47 of the podcast, and I'll include a link to that in the description box down below. And it's very much about accepting that in life we experience the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's no avoiding the bad stuff that happens. But all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it is an opportunity to grow. Take the ongoing pandemic and multiple lockdowns as an example. You can either focus on the negative of that, or you can choose to look for the positives and also learn from the negative stuff. For me, you know, this whole thing has brought me closer to a whole number of people, and it's even helped me to reconnect with some of my family. So, you know, there are positives in all challenging situations and difficult situations. The thing is that negative events aren't the end of the world. They are setbacks, but they're setbacks that we can overcome with time, effort, and perseverance. Let me share a quote by Norman Vincent Peale, which I think gives a good idea of what I'm talking about here. A positive thinker does not refuse to recognize the negative, they refuse to dwell on it. And the remarkable fact is that when you seek good, you are very likely to find it. So how do you stay positive when shitty stuff is happening? Well, here are 5 simple ideas to help you do just that. Tip number 1, when shit happens, own it and understand it. It's like when you go on a journey. You start by identifying where you are, either using your GPS on your phone or using a map if you want to go old school. So you plot where you are, and then you decide where you're going. And from there, you can work out what the most appropriate steps are to take to be able to reach your destination. Life is exactly the same. So when bad stuff is happening, first of all, you need to own it and understand what's happening and where you are now. So you can start from a point of reality. Which then leads me to my second point. When shit happens, look for the lesson. Not everything has a lesson in it. Sometimes shit just happens. But in most things, there are lessons that you can take away. I don't think that bad things happen to us because they were meant to happen. I think bad things just happen sometimes. And so it's really about saying, okay, well, so shit has happened. What am I going to do with this? What is the opportunity for me here? You know, I've talked about losing loved ones before, and as painful as that is, you know, that experience does help you to grow and help you to learn things in terms of what really matters in life. And it's really up to you to be able to say, okay, well, what is the lesson? Because any kind of setback is an opportunity to grow if you choose to look at it that way. And that leads me to my third point, which is when shit happens, you don't have to resolve issues immediately. So part of making progress is taking small steps over time. I think we have this real desire, and I think part of it comes down to sort of, you know, how everything is built for us in society, but we have this real desire and this need to overcome all of our issues in the blink of an eye, as though we were Genie from I Dream of Jeannie. And the thing is that life doesn't work like that. Generally, with most things, things take time, effort, and perseverance. And so you don't have to resolve your issues immediately. Take small steps over time, which then adds up to massive progress once you start to get sort of weeks and months and years of progress happening. It's like with a crash diet. You know, they rarely last. You might be really good for a few days or even a few weeks, but generally you'll find that that immediate rush sort of doesn't pan out, and then things will go to shit from there. So take small, consistent steps and keep going, because that's the stuff that tends to create more sustainable change. And when you are going through tough times, knowing that you're taking just those little steps and that they are slowly adding up will make such a difference to the way that you feel about things. Which leads me to my next point. When shit happens, get other shit done. You know what? Sometimes when shit happens, you need a distraction. You need to not focus solely on all the horrible stuff that you're going through at the time. So I find that if you're stuck and you're having a lot of trouble with things, find distractions and do things that you need to do, and then come back to it a little bit later. So for example, get outside, and bonus points for doing something fun while you're outside. Learn a new skill, have some fun, sing, dance, watch a comedy, whatever works for you. Take a road trip if you're able to. You know, it's just about getting yourself out of the headspace that you're in and finding some different things that can give you a small moment of respite and relaxation before you go back to tackling whatever it is that's challenging you at the time. And my next point is probably my biggest point, and it's when shit happens, you are in control of what you do, say, and feel next. This is something I talk about a lot in the podcast, and it is very much about saying that you are responsible for your own words, actions, and behaviors. And so it's very much a case of saying that, you know, when our backs are against the wall and we're going through tough times, sometimes we can react without thinking. But those reactions, those words and actions, they have an impact. Whether or not you realize it at the time, they can set off a chain of events that can cause more difficulty for you later. And so the best way to approach that is really to hit the pause button for 10 seconds when you're really challenged with stuff, and just give yourself time to reset a little bit and then start to think more logically and rationally about whatever is going on. That then gives you a chance to think about, okay, well, how am I going to respond to this in a more thoughtful and considered way? And what that tends to do is cause a lot less mess for you to have to clean up later on. But at the end of all of this, you are responsible for your own words, actions, and feelings, and specifically what you do with those feelings. So make the choices that are going to be more thoughtful and considered, and that are going to assist you to deliver a better outcome for yourself in the long run. Even though, there's shit going on, it's still a case of saying, well, I really just don't want to cause more issue than I need to, and I'd like to come at this from a really considered place. So the choice, as always, is yours. And my bonus tip is, when shit happens, reflect on the times that you've had to deal with shitty stuff in the past, and remember, you have survived 100% of your worst days so far. And the thing is that saying that you've survived 100% of your worst days so far, it gets popped on Instagram a lot, and I think it gets kind of turned into a bit of a cliche and almost abused in some respects. But it is a good reminder that you can and will survive anything. Just take things one step at a time. And if you need support, then ask for it. Because the most important thing here is that you will get through the worst times. You absolutely will. But it's also remembering that you do not need to go through anything alone in this world. If you are stuck, ask for help. Speak with friends or family members, or speak with a professional like a counselor or therapist. The thing with a professional is that they will be far more objective about things. They're not tied up in an emotional response when you speak to them. So, you go talk to your mum or your dad, for example, and they are bringing with them all of the feelings that they have for you and their desire to protect you and nurture you. Whereas when you speak to a professional, what you're actually doing is speaking to somebody independent who can help you to potentially look at things that you may not have looked at before. And so I like to take the analogy of, it's like when you have a physical injury. If you broke your arm, you wouldn't just pop a Band-Aid on it and expect to fix it yourself. You'd go and see a doctor. Well, I certainly hope so anyway. So please don't do that with your mental health. If you are really struggling, then go and see a professional and get some additional support, because you don't have to go through anything alone, and you should not. We all go through tough times. Anybody that tells you that they've got life all figured out and that they've got all the answers and that everything's perfect for them is full of crap, because we all have struggles to deal with. So if you're having a tough time, then let me say this to you: things will work out okay. How do I know that? Because 9 years ago, I wanted to commit suicide. And today, I am so glad that I managed to find even the slightest bit of hope to cling to. Because things can and do get much, much better. So, the thing is that it takes work, and sometimes you need support to help you through all of that. But with time and effort and perseverance, you will find that things get a little bit better every single day. And if you'd like more simple ideas for better mental health, then join me on the weekly Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast. In the latest episode, I'm talking about connection and how to improve the quality of your relationships. So I'll link it in the description box below, and you can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever fine podcasts are found. Or watch a short version with 5 tips from the episode here on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining me this week, and I hope to see you again next time. Look after yourself and make a conscious effort to share positivity and kindness out into the world, because you get back what you put out. Take care and talk to you next time.